Welcome to the Digital Lifestyle Show. It's show 764 and Gary's back, so we've got lots to talk about. We've got TikTok, Microsoft, really. We'll be talking about the Surface Duo, new Windows Insider builds. We've got some home automation chat, music service news, all sorts of stuff. So let's get straight to Gary. Oh, we've got a bonus interview at the end of the show. Well, you need to listen to that as well. So let's get straight over to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening. I'm back.
You're back. Yes, you're rescuing me.
Yeah, sorry about last week.
It's okay. It's one of those things. There wasn't a huge amount of news, but it was. So I managed to do a catch up. But we had a sort of week off as well, so kind of a 2-week holiday with a mini episode in there as well.
Yeah,
because Richard is on holiday. He said he had worse than Jason Coombs' level of bandwidth today.
Yeah, that's how bandwidth's measured now. It's a Coombs.
So if you've not got a Coombs, then you're in trouble. But
yeah.
Of course, nowadays Jason has the super fast broadband, so he's okay. But
It's fine. Yeah.
I did enjoy your days where, man, it doesn't seem long ago to me either when I used to go around and say, stop downloading something I'm recording. Don't seem that long ago.
Doesn't it indeed?
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I'm glad you're back. We've got lots of things to talk about. Some technical, like new builds, Windows 10. Some speculation, like Surface Duo, and maybe ARM news, and some slightly out of our wheelhouse but interesting TikTok. I think we have talked about TikTok on this show before, but
we have talked about TikTok, yes.
But only really my experience of it was when I was using it. It was Musically. But we can talk about that as well. And one that you put in the show notes as well, Google Play Music.
Yes, yeah. So it's disappearing to become YouTube Music. So yeah, we can talk about that as well.
Yeah. So we'll start. So actually, we won't start immediately with the TikTok news. I wanted something that's a bit of a week's old news, but I wanted to mention it is Microsoft Flight Simulator. We talked about that, and I think we all talked about how much we're looking forward to seeing that, being fans from the old days. But they've announced some details of it, including how it's going to have support for virtual reality.
Yeah, we discussed that, didn't we? We thought that'd be brilliant if it had VR support, and yeah, it's going to have it. Excellent stuff.
Yeah. And it's not just, the interesting thing is that it's Windows mixed reality only initially.
Yes. Yeah.
That
could be a good way of selling mixed reality headsets, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So it's one way of doing it, isn't it? And it's about time Microsoft used its. These days they don't tend to do that. It was a good trick from the past, wasn't it, to sort of force you to use stuff. I guess this is just a technical, and it won't that much. It's just a technical issue while they work through it as its early stages. So this is Microsoft New Flight Simulator. It launched fairly soon, doesn't it? I think it's actually some previews are out now, aren't they? I think, but I think it's late September that it's coming to Windows mixed reality via Steam. So not to the Vive or any of the other virtual reality headsets, but it's coming to Windows. In fact, initially they said it was coming for the HP Reverb G2, which launches at the same time, which makes sense to tie them together.
Yeah.
But the post on Upload VR clarified that it was for all Windows mixed reality headsets, so it would work with my Lenovo or the HP ones, or Acer and so on. So yeah, they're coming to it. So I think that's a really good thing, because I think that's one of those things that really I think we talked about in the past. But the virtual reality makes sense for a game like Flight Simulator.
Indeed. Now the article does also say that it may still work on other headsets unofficially, so it's not necessarily exclusive, but obviously it's been primarily written for the mixed reality headsets. And as you said, the HP Reverb makes perfect sense for this. It's going to be a beautiful headset for running that on. So it's one of the few things which might actually tempt me. And I'm not a huge flight simulator player, but I have used it in the past, and just the idea of that in VR just really appeals. It's going to be really cool.
Just like the racing games, I think it really makes a difference. And a flight sim, I guess the only complexity with a flight sim is your dash, or the cockpit controls. When you're in a driving game, you tend to be hands on the wheel. You might have a couple of buttons on your steering wheel for DRS or something like that, but you tend not to need to know the control panel layout especially you've got your buttons on your controller. But I guess with the flight sim, you've got all your different controllers. I guess that's a bit more complicated. But then I suppose you're virtualizing some of them as well. You can maybe use the mouse. I don't know how they've done it. I think the old days used to be a key for everything.
Yeah, well, a lot of flight sim users actually have full control systems, the yokes and everything. So you can imagine that would work reasonably well in mixed reality, because that would be hands on, and you've got your foot pedals and your yoke and everything like that. So yeah, that should be quite cool.
Yeah. I think it's something I wasn't going to bother with, but now it's got that spot. Oh, I might be interested in that. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I've seen some of the work they've done on it, the visuals on it. It looks fantastic. I mean, I think you're going to need a decent machine to drive it, but I think it's going to be really good for fans of simulators, and some of the stuff on there looks pretty good. But in VR, that really makes it great, because you don't need a big multi-round screen layouts and things like that to get the best out of it.
You don't.
Yeah. So I think that's really good. So I'm pleased to see that, and it's good to have something to tie in with the launch for the G2 as well. So to make to be a bit of a splash with the announcement when the G2 comes out.
Yeah, indeed.
Now, this story, Richard Ted, I'd like to see how you're going to explain about, because when we emailed earlier about how we're going to explain about this TikTok thing. So this TikTok story. Now, it's not really, it's kind of business news, but it does come to a consumer thing, bit of interest. So I think we would briefly talk about it as well. So if you'd mentioned me a few months ago, or a few weeks ago even, that Microsoft could potentially be a buyer of TikTok, I would have been... I would have laughed quite considerably. But see, this is a real thing that's happening. So, first of all, I guess most people know, but TikTok is a short form video social platform.
Yeah, it is. It's short form, very short form. It's actually limited. Vertical format rather than horizontal format. It's one of the few which is actually suited for that. It's meant to be done on your phone quickly, quick short videos. The key thing it's always had is the ability to add soundtracks to what you're doing as well. So you can use and licensed music, so you can actually use real music in your videos and do that. And it's got a real following. I mean, it is the current generation's Facebook. I mean, it's the one they all use. And if you,
my niece uses it, and she was the one that showed me Musically when it was still called Musically.
Yeah.
But I saw her the weekend, and she says she does between, I think she's 12, 13. So she says she does between 10 and 20 TikToks a day.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that's not uncommon. TikTok's huge. It really is. I think it's quite. I mean, I can certainly see the appeal of it. Now the thing about TikTok though is it's Chinese origined, although it does have a company running it in the States, and there's a lot of politics around this, and basically the rumor is that the American government's likely to close down TikTok in America if it remains in its current hands. So. And they've been sort of told that they have to divest of it to an American company if they want to save that. And Microsoft are kind of stepping in as a knight in shining armor on a horse to rescue the poor damsel that is TikTok, and actually probably at the same time gain a lot of kudos amongst a younger generation. And I actually think that may be the main reason for this. Although there are other technical reasons they may want to take it on, because the TikTok and hosting of TikTok on Azure would lead to a really good scaling of the video platform, and a lot of the revenue at the moment goes to the offshore hosting. So they'd be able to take that on and take that cost in, and TikTok runs at a profit. So it's an interesting concept. It's I think it's. You can certainly see it as having interest, but obviously it's a move back into consumer stuff, which they've moved away from completely. So it's I mean, it would have to be a standalone platform. I can't see it really being integrated.
So Microsoft TikTok for Teams, and
yeah, that's sort of, I mean, it's a similar thought. If you think about it, it's a similar sort of purchase Minecraft was. It's winning hearts and minds.
Yeah. Yes, I see what you mean. Yeah, and it's if you want to demonstrate your cloud platform has scale and it's cost effective, then you just because I was looking at some of the numbers for TikTok and it's pretty incredible, their usage numbers, and their I don't know, I think it's the term stickiness, isn't it? The amount of times a day people are using it, and it's not reliant on your friends as well either. That's what I was reading. It's not necessarily a social like Facebook. No. It's got some clever AI in it to clever algorithms, I suppose you should say, to bring you surface this content and then make it really easy for you to post your content and, like you said, the music and everything else. So it's an interesting thing. But what I was, it's only 4 or 5 countries that this applies to. So it was US, Canada, New Zealand.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but basically the US company has the rights for certain areas, which is quite weird. But I think it's odd because you do wonder how, because there's a single app which is on all the app stores, so you wonder how that's going to work going forward. It's an odd one, but I mean, I certainly could see where they would go with this. I mean, at the moment, nothing's in concrete, but Microsoft Corp did put a PR press release out saying that they were actively pursuing this, so it's real.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of politics involved in it with the president in American president, and there's wanting money, and there's so much of that going on as well that could derail it. But it's very interesting to see Microsoft coming in like that for something. Like you said, it's something that is not what you'd exactly expect. But I saw all the usual tweets saying you should invest the money in Windows Mobile instead, because it never works like that. You can never. But interesting, nevertheless, and of course it did show all the jokes about Microsoft, renaming it as Microsoft Video Sharing 365 for Teams, Enterprise Edition. Yeah. So of course it gave everybody a chance to do that and to bring out the clippy jokes and everything else. But I suppose just smart thinking. I always look at the platform. I've seen on this article I read today that. I think it was in 2018-19, they spent an awful lot of money on Facebook and Twitter, getting people to the platform, and then they cut that now because they've got the users on there, and it is the kind of the next, like you said, the next thing. It's that generation's version of Facebook, because they certainly don't use Facebook. I think it's probably Instagram that is probably their main competitor, I suppose, in some ways. But certainly
they're different. Instagram. I mean, Instagram is more social than YouTube. Than TikTok is. TikTok's a bit closer to YouTube, I think.
Yeah, because it's kind of a short form YouTube, which given you the attention span of people nowadays, that's great, and it's mobile focused. And like I say, my niece loves it, and she's on it all the time. Even when it was Musical.ly, which is where it originally arrived from, wasn't it? And then it's kind of expanded. But it's being used by influencers now and all that kind of stuff. So very interesting with that. So I'm not sure we'll be doing this show on TikTok, but we can edit it down. But
TikTok,
nevertheless, it's interesting.
The TikTok for Teams, I think, would be the one we need to use.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it just shows you the. I think what is interesting and good about this is Microsoft's way of working quickly and responding quickly, and perhaps the Microsoft of all would have just first of all not seen this as being something that was viable or interesting, but to be able to move that quickly to get this done. Yeah. So we'll see. But one thing is it'll have an Android app, so it'll work on the Surface Duo.
Yeah. Which is actually a point. I mean, if you think about it, this is actually another point that could be a good win for Microsoft. If they came up with a dual screen version of TikTok, that could be a huge seller for the Surface Duo. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and little things like this make a difference. So it could. So the reason I mentioned the Surface Duo is we're still nothing official from Microsoft, but a few places reporting that it could release the week of the 24th, or maybe the 25th, 26th, something like that, and maybe even shipping that week.
Yeah.
Which means if that's the case, then pre-orders are going to be soon. Usually a couple of weeks, aren't they, before it comes on? So yeah, we could be looking at the Surface Duo soon, because I hope so, because my camera doesn't work on my Pixel. The cradle in the car that I use with it is got wobbly, and even my little soft case is broken. So if I don't get a new phone in the next, I need to get a new phone. I actually dug my Lumia 950 XL out to take some pictures the other day, because I was out in the garden and I went to take a picture of my greenhouse, and I had to get that out. And that's gone a bit wonky. There's a problem with the sensor, or I'm not sure it's sensor, the motor doing the focusing. I don't know, this is a known issue, but when you try and take a picture, you can hear it go zip, 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 and the focus comes in and out. So that's not good either. So I'm struggling taking pictures now. So I don't want to buy a new phone though, in case the Duo is available or whatever. Yeah. If it turns out that it's not available in the UK, then I'll have to look at some Samsung thing, I guess. Yeah. But I'm hoping that's the case. But yeah, great. I'll be able to have dual screen TikToks on there. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Actually, and talking about Android apps, I don't talk about Android. The Jack, my son, turned me onto an interesting app for Android called Just Watch, and probably I haven't seen this before, but one of the things problems we've got now with so many different services, video services, you've got Amazon Prime and Disney Plus and Netflix and so on, that if you want to watch a movie, finding on which service it's on, it actually can be a bit fiddly. So Jack showed me this app. It's probably people have seen it for a while. I hadn't seen it before. It's called Just Watch. So it's an Android app. I think there's probably an iOS one. You can sign into it and tell it what services you have, or you can just use it as a browser. Basically, you put the film that you want to watch or the TV show, and it shows you which services have it on streaming and which have it on for purchase. All right. So it's very simple. Yeah, but yeah, if you just say, "Oh, I'd love to see this," as a film. Actually, the reason I was looking at this, I wanted to watch Shaun of the Dead, and because I watched Hot Fuzz on Netflix, and Shaun of the Dead wasn't on there, so where is it? Anyway, I think it's on Amazon, because you just type in and it shows you it's there. So a nice little app called Just Watch, and I said you can sign in, you can create an account and sign into it. So it can. I think he said he set it up so from his phone he can type the name of the thing is, if it's because he's got Disney Plus, or an Amazon, it just starts playing. So you can have it, to pre-launch it up. But nice little thing anyway. Right, what else? Oh, so yeah, talking about another Android thing then, that's an Android app that I used to use an awful lot, is Google Play Music. I signed up for Google Play Music when it was in beta, I think. It was on special offer. I uploaded all my music to it using the upload tool. In fact, it's in our book.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's another feature from our book.
Yeah.
If you ever want a service to survive, don't get it written in a book by either of us.
Yeah, I think there's only Plex left, I think, out of all the stuff we wrote about. And obviously iTunes, but even iTunes is kind of split now, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, so Google Play Music, I don't know when I started using that. Some time ago, actually. I could be able to check. But so what's happening with Google Play Music?
Well, they announced some time ago that they were going to move over to YouTube Music as the official basic thing for music on Google. So obviously Google own YouTube as well. So it basically means moving to one service. And they've basically announced a couple of dates today that they're going to close down Google Play Music in a couple of locations in September. That's New Zealand and South Africa. Why they've chosen those, I'm not quite sure. And then October will be the close down for the rest of the world. And then basically you'll have to use the YouTube Music app to play your music. Now that doesn't sound too bad. You're going to have a new app, and there's a transfer tool. You can transfer any music you've got, any playlists across to it. But there are a few gotchas here. For example, the YouTube Music app doesn't actually work on some smart assistants, which Google Play Music works on. I'm not sure if it works on Sonos, for example.
Actually, that's a very good point. I'll have a look while you're telling me.
Yeah, it's something I know they were talking about getting that onto Sonos, but So there's a few gotchas here which are a little way off. but it's, I mean, it's good in some ways. It's available on Android TV. It's available obviously anywhere you've got YouTube. So and the you can say, hey Google, play music from YouTube Music on both the Google Home and Nest smart speakers, but not necessarily third-party ones, which may be an issue. But yeah, it's a natural progression of pulling it down into one place. I'm just not sure about YouTube as a branding for music playback. I guess they have got all the videos on there, but
yeah.
But Google Play was a natural thing for music. I mean, Google Play Music, it seems like an actual name for it. And YouTube, would you look for YouTube Music on your Google device to find Android device to find music? But there we go. But that's basically what's happening. If you haven't already migrated, you need to find the transfer tool, which if you do a Google search, you'll find the transfer tool, and then you can transfer your music over to either YouTube Music or a service called Google Takeout, which allows you to export your data for your own personal use. So yeah, I mean, they introduced the transfer tool back in May, so it's been around a while. So people who've got Google Play Music would have been told about this by email anyway that it's happening, but it's just there's a certain finality to it now, and so our books are even more out of date now.
Yeah, I've just checked, and it doesn't. Sonos app doesn't allow you to add YouTube Music. So if you were like I used to do, I was on Google Play Music and it used it all the time when you were on Sonos, then yeah, you got to move away. And I imagine that maybe not Sonos in particular, but I mean Sonos is a big market. Maybe the number of people on Google, I guess this is the number of people on Google Play Music was probably quite low anyway on music subscriptions, but I liked it. I always liked it. It worked really well on Android, which is why I started using it. But then with the family subscriptions for Spotify, I switched over and actually prefer Spotify now that I've seen, used Spotify for some time. I realised the benefits of using Spotify. The catalogue's better, and I like the UI and the tools and the fact that Spotify is everywhere.
Yeah,
was benefits as well. So integrating your car and that kind of thing. But YouTube Music seems to me more of a visual experience, and I don't know whether that visual focus rather than the audio focus wouldn't be for me, but because I tend not to sit and watch videos on my phone, music videos, or on the laptop. I tend to have music going in the car or on the Sonos. So I suppose if it still does the audio stuff like that, then that's fine. But it just shows that it's not a closure in the same way that Groove was closed and Groove migrated to Spotify. But I don't know whether YouTube Music is a direct replacement. It almost seems to me like Google Play Music hasn't worked. This other thing, YouTube, is the closest thing, so they move you across to that.
Yeah. But Google, we know Google likes to change their services almost as much as Microsoft do.
So it's another one for the Google graveyard, that one.
Yeah, the Google graveyard.
Yeah, I'm glad I moved over to Spotify, to be honest. Yeah. But I wonder what's going to happen to all that music I uploaded to the cloud using the Google Upload tool.
Well, yes, good question actually. Yeah, probably with transfer tool you could get it out, use it elsewhere, but
yeah, I uploaded all my music to OneDrive, so I could use it on Groove Music. I uploaded it onto Google as well, and now both of those services. Well, the OneDrive audio is still there because it's in OneDrive, but both the playback services have gone.
Yeah,
but it just shows you how times changed. At the time I did that, it was because I wanted to have all my collection available, but now it's all on Spotify, so I don't bother. Yeah, but there are probably some stuff on there that isn't available.
One thing which is interesting at the moment, I'm seeing a resurgence of people wanting to download music and actually have it for themselves, rather streaming, for use in EVs when charging. So when you're sitting at charging stream for half an hour or whatever, you might want to play some music. I mean, obviously you get on radio and stuff like that, but you may not have a lot of where the charges are. There's very poor phone signal, so you may not be able to stream from your streaming services. So there seems to be. I'm seeing a number of articles of people showing you how you can download your music and put it onto a memory stick to play in the car. Quite interesting. That's how things come around. Yeah.
Next thing they'll have a bit of 8-track.
Yeah. I don't think we'll quite go that far, but
yeah. It's funny now because I use my Sonos for either Spotify if it's during the week, or maybe I'm cooking or something, But if it's actually for, especially the weekend, in the weekend, just listening to music, I put it on vinyl.
Yeah.
Through the Sonos. But so yeah. Another music service going shut down. Yeah. So our book continues to be the hit of the
yes. Don't go in our books.
Entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Actually, that's another thing. Not in our book, but a lot of Cortana stuff's been closed down.
Yes,
the Evoke speakers.
Yeah, the Evoke speakers become effectively just straight Bluetooth speakers now, which is a shame. I mean, great speakers, but yeah, it's not.
So if you really want to use them as smart speakers, you're going to have to get yourself a little dot and plug that in.
Well, yeah, you probably would do something like echo input would probably be a better match, just a plug in one. But, yes.
Yeah, another service that's going away. I did try because Microsoft are sort of moving their focus of Cortana away from that consumer sort of experience and jokes and home automation to an AI assistant. I did try the Cortana email in the Android app. Now I know this has been around, I think, for iOS for quite a while, but I think it's fairly recently because it just pops up on mine. I remember reading about it, but it just popped up with a little thing, and I tried it, and it's actually really good. I don't know if you tried it, but it's very, very good and very efficient.
Yeah, it does seem to work quite well.
So it reads your emails, but rather than just doing straight voice to text as you would, that's useless, especially when someone sends you a link and it goes HTTP, and it reads out this humongous thing. It's intelligent. It says you have 3 emails today, and this one's from Garry, and Garry said, and it really is that sort of conversational thing. And if you did it, the email includes a link, and it's kind of that conversational, like you would imagine somebody reading the email out to you if you could see it. And I thought that was really, really useful, especially if you've got your earbuds in, or you're out and about, or you're driving and you want it to control you through the car. I couldn't work out. There's no easy way of just triggering it though without in some interaction. You've got to actually press the play button, so it's probably not ideal in that circumstance. But maybe you've got your headphones on or something like that, and you're out and about. It's pretty good. But I did. It does give you the opportunity to do replies and things like that, and it's got a very nice conversation. I think it said you've got a few more emails, and it makes it friendly and like Cortana style. Interesting, it uses the US voice, so they haven't bothered to try and put the different languages in their accents in there like they did with Cortana, which is fine. I'm not really bothered. I don't know whether it's because I've been messing with my region settings or that's just a thing that they chose to do. But I'm surprised of how well it worked, to be honest.
So I assume there's a video coming on that at some point.
I haven't done one actually. Yeah, I should do that. I've bit of trouble capturing video on my. I can't take any video through the phone, but I can capture the screen maybe. I like it. Quite a nice little service. Yeah,
it's quite good. I've actually been playing with the Amazon voice assistant on my desktop, on my laptop now. I have that actually on in hands-free mode. All the time now. So I mean it's a little bit restricted, but it's useful for setting timers and just work reminders and calendar reminders, which I can quickly say on sort of a word remind me that I've got the digital lifestyle show to record tonight, so I don't go off and get a tooth removed. But that sort of stuff, but it works well. But it's just I just find the things which are missing from it are strange. Like it doesn't do comms, so you can't make calls from it. but you can make announcements from it, which is it's just weird that some of the bits which are there and which aren't there just seems very arbitrary. But when it works really well.
And of course, I think it was the October update or the May update that brought the option you can have. It was the October, wasn't it? So it can be the default assistant and listen from the lock screen as well.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So it's good. I mean, it works pretty well, to be honest. It's good. But as I say, missing bits I would like to see.
Yeah, I think I still haven't got any. Still, my main use of my assistants are for setting timers, turning lights on, and telling me the weather forecast. That's where I'm up to at the moment. We're still with it. And now I've got. Actually, one thing I was looking at is I built over the weekend a greenhouse.
Yes, I saw.
Yeah, it took 2 days to build. The instructions did say it takes about 8 hours, which it was probably about right. So I've got my tomatoes in there now and my aubergines and other stuff. But what I want to do now is have a look, because temperature is quite important. So I've got all these Raspberry Pis and LCD displays. So I thought I've got to be able to do something, and because I can send temperature alerts and those kind of things. So my temperature system, which I made a couple of years ago, will work fine. Although where the greenhouse is, there's no power in there at the moment. I wasn't really planning to put power in necessarily, and just on the Wi-Fi range. So, but of course the Raspberry Pi, what it can do is just write the temperature, as well as the application that I wrote for it, which is a UWP app, as well as capturing it and posting it to Google Sheets. It also captures it to a local text file. So even without the network, it'll still carry on logging it if you can power it. But what I have used, what I've been testing it is just a phone power battery pack, phone charger, USB phone charger. And I've got quite a decent one, which will probably power the device for 2 days. So I'm just going to stick it up there. If it drops off the network, it's fine. I can go and retrieve the text file later. So, but I'm thinking of whether I can do something a bit smarter, maybe something with a lower power device like an Arduino. Because if you remember, my temperature system is an Arduino that posts the data to a Raspberry Pi UWP app, which then posts it to IFTTT. So I wonder if just to capture in the actual temperature, I could just use an Arduino to write to a file and then read that out. But I'm not quite sure. I know how to do the programming on the Arduino side, but can't remember. I haven't really done much with the I/O local storage, so I'm not sure on a Arduino how you can write to local storage files, so I can collect that at a later date. But I'm guessing you can do it.
Yeah, I just don't. I'm just thinking that sounds like a project you could probably do on something like an ESP8266, the little tiny Wi-Fi chip.
Yeah.
To do the transmission at low power, just because they can go into deep sleep and just wake up to send stuff in bursts.
Yeah, that would probably all it needs to do. Maybe collect the temperature every hour, just wake up, or every 2 hours, wake up, post it, and then log off again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I could run it from a battery pack that maybe I swap once a week or something like that, in case I don't put power in there.
There probably does seem a bit overkill on that, but because I mean, you said now, I did a temperature sensor just using an ASP chip set. I think that's actually an ESP32, but it could have been done with the older version, and that literally just had the sensor plugged into the board, tiny little board. I mean, thumb-sized board. It was a really tiny thing, and that was transmitting on Wi-Fi once every day. All the figures it actually got during the day.
Yeah,
but they're just stored in RAM. I mean, I wasn't trying to do any sort of storage basis stuff. I just used the minimal RAM which was available to store them in. Had a little array in the program.
I was good. That would be. I was just thinking that an array, something like that. So maybe I'll look at doing something like that. I mean, of course, you can get thermometers that show the minimum max. It's always more interesting to see the up and down, the daytime temperature. And of course,
it's always more fun when you do it yourself anyway.
Yeah. And of course, I can get it to set. Currently, the Arduino, I already wrote that into I already wrote alerts in for minimum, maximum temperature anyway on the Raspberry Pi app, on the UWP app. So I'll get an alert if the device is online on the network. I'll get an alert email to say the temperature's too high or too low. So you know, if it's too high, I can go and open a window, or you can get the automated openers and that kind of thing. So there's plenty of stuff I can do, but trying to do it with a minimum of power and everything else in there, because it's also not a great environment for computers in there. It's humid, damp, but it would be interesting to see, especially, you know, in the winter, to see how what the minimum temperature becomes, and you know, you can see at the nighttime temperatures and whether I need to put heater in there and all that kind of stuff. So like you said, it's always more fun when you do it yourself.
It is indeed.
So I'll let you know how I get on that, and I'll let you know how my aubergines. I managed to harvest my potatoes today.
Hey, excellent.
Yesterday, and they were potatoes that I just a Sainsbury's potato that you buy, you know, for your tea.
Yeah.
Planted it in May and got a little bowl full of potatoes out of it today.
Excellent stuff. So, excellent stuff.
Yeah, not quite self-sufficient yet, but getting there. But I want to use some technology now to assist me. I've got, you know, that's where you get the fun, when you got a use case. That's when you really get the fun developing this kind of stuff.
I've been using technology to save part of my lawn, well, this friend's lawn, because it's been being dug up down to a cable which was buried under it, and couldn't figure out what was digging it up. So I got one of these. I've been testing for some time, a solar camera, so it doesn't actually need any connection other than Wi-Fi. Works quite well out in their garden and gets the Wi-Fi into the house. And I was able to plant it in a tree just overlooking this patch which kept getting dug up, and found out it was a fox digging it out. But normally you wouldn't have been able to. You couldn't have run cables out of there to get a power to the thing. But this solar camera seems to last forever. It's really impressive, actually.
That's quite a good use of it. Yeah.
To do it that way, but yeah. Actually, while we're on cameras, just one thing I did want to pick up, because I forgot to mention it last week. There's a web camera server called Blue Iris, which is used by an awful lot of people for IP, the old IP cameras on network ones. Not so much, people aren't using them quite so much now, because most of these cameras come with their own services and their own web servers and online cloud servers, which get really expensive if you pay for a lot of them. But these were for the sort of the independent IP cameras, and then you just have a server at home which handles all the cameras. And I've used that for some while. But one of the problems with Blue Iris has actually been getting it into some of the other services, like, for example, the Amazon Echo. You want to see those cameras on the Echo show, and you can't unless they happen to be the right sort of cameras which the Echo can actually read. But in the last release of Blue Iris, they added the ability to have an RTSP web server from Blue Iris itself. So this means any camera that Blue Iris can see and put into the server can now be pushed out as an RTSP stream, which means with a little bit of fiddling, you can get it into the Echo devices. There's a thing called Monocle Cam, which will take any RTSP stream and turn it into something that the Echo devices can actually read and see as a camera. So now you can actually show the gate or show the front door, and it will actually show those on the Echo Show without having to.
That's good, yeah.
So
you don't need a proprietary service necessarily.
No, you don't need a proprietary service at all. So it works really, really well. And I mean, there is a little bit of lag on it because it's reprocessing into RTSP, because a lot of these cameras don't do, the older cameras particularly don't do RTSP. They're web-based or MPEG-based streams. But yeah, it's good that it actually manages to do that. So it's nice to see that. I mean, it's been promised for a long time, and it's nice to see it's actually come to fruition, and seems very well implemented as well.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's nice to be able to hook it up to your show then.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it makes it much more interesting possibility to do that. I haven't quite worked out if it could be used to triggering routines yet, but that's the next
we're still
thing.
Trying to get that. I've still not figured that out yet. By the time the issue I have as well, it's fairly slow opening the Arlo service. So when you say to the device, show front door, you know, it says waiting. Right, got it.
Yeah.
And by the meantime, the person that's rang the doorbell is gone because you triggered it, and then you've got the delay. Whereas if it was synced up better, then it would be good.
Actually, that's one of the real advantages of the Blue Iris things, because it's local. It's not going off to a server somewhere in the cloud to get the stream. It's just pulling it from the local network.
Yeah. So it might work better.
Yeah, it works quicker. I've had some using that doorbell thing. We had the people on the show a few months back now, I guess. I've been using that quite successfully to set up notifications that the postman's at the door, which is quite good.
Yeah, it's handy, especially these days now, especially getting something delivered, because the protocol seems to be they ring the doorbell and then go back to the van straight away, aren't they? So at least if you got an alert on that.
Yeah.
Now, we did have some Windows Insider build stuff last week. In fact, since we all talked last time, there was quite a few changes. Did they have all the stuff on the beta channel we last talked? I can't remember, because the beta channel's now got all the new start menus and it's got the alt tab.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, so that's got to the beta channel. Yeah. So we've had a couple of builds since then, but slightly less exciting. We had a new fast ring build last week, 20180. Yeah. Which went to the dev channel, but not a huge amount of changes to that. I mean, the first thing they said is that more people will get the theme aware start menu tiles, the start tiles, because we had that in that when Microsoft a few months ago said they were dropping A/B testing. They've brought back A/B testing, and many people didn't get the new start menu, but the beta channel did. Yeah. So everybody on the beta channel got it, and the Windows Insiders on the dev channel that should be the first to test it didn't. So it made it kind of strange, but now they said that they've rolled that out to more people now. Yeah. But the rest of the changes were kind of fixes and improvements. There was nothing major. Snip and Sketch has got a new icon. I think that was mentioned in the blog post, although it's rolled out now to it's on my Surface laptop too, which is on release preview. So I think it's got the same icon that the Windows 10X had, the colourful one. Yeah. Which actually looks a lot better now. I tell you what I've noticed now though, with that new start menu, certain apps really stand out badly of needing updating, because you got all these nice theme aware tiles like the Office ones, the store. The store's got the new icon as well. The handle's different, so you get all these nice ones, and then the Skype one, which stands out really badly, and the Office one stands out badly, and also the Surface audio app stands out because that doesn't correspond to any of the design styles of any of the other apps at all now. Surface one is it's like a photo of the it's like a photo of the back of a surface where you've got the Windows icon and the shiny icon. It just stands out really badly compared to the others. So I think something that Microsoft needs to fire up the beta channel now and look at all the different in-house applications and think, okay, we need to fix that one, and that one, and then you've got that consistency. Yeah. I know probably Skype isn't top of their priority at the moment, but I mean they can at least make the icon look like the others. Sure, someone do that. So 20180, not a huge amount of changes in there. I did do the hands-on video, but there's not much in there. What I did find is the Alt tab stopped working as well. So they're doing things, switching on and off features, and I think the dev channel's a bit is getting the worst of that. We also did get a new beta channel build, 109.42423, but which is a 20H2 build, but that was a bunch of fixes that keep it in line with the same fixes that went out to the May update last week as well. So they're still doing that same thing where patches are going out to both builds, which keeps them in parity, which is quite good. So this actually, I did a little roundup of all the things that are new for the 20H2, because I'm not sure how much more stuff will be coming, because I think that's probably due October time would be a guess. There's no official line.
I'd guess
Microsoft, but it is quite a nice tidy up. You get all the benefits of the May update with a lot of fixes. Perhaps some of the bugs that Microsoft had with Surface devices will be fixed. You get the new version of Edge pre-installed. You get the new SteamOS start menu. You get the Alt tab tiles and the new notifications. So really, you're getting quite a lot of visual change for an incremental update. So be quite a nice update when that one ships, because hopefully it shouldn't have as many major issues because it's not a major update, but those visual changes are actually the things that stick out more than the sort of under hood WSL2 type fixes, changes which are a lot more work, but don't hit you in the face when you hit the start menu. So I've got my video of that up, so you can see what's what's new, and I'll keep updating that one. Oh, while we were on smart home stuff, I did one other thing that I forgot to mention. Did you see that Google are investing in ADT?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Because obviously Ring and ADT, which is Google own Ring, no, Amazon own Ring, don't they? So Amazon own Ring. So we have to get this right. Amazon own Ring, and Ring and ADT are major competitors. So it's really interesting to see Google investing in ADT. It's sort of like get back at Amazon.
Yeah. So they ADT. I mean, we were like an alarm company, weren't they? Really?
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
But still are consumer alarms, business alarms, that kind of stuff. I did read that there was a bit of a rise in people going with the smart home technology, but not necessarily the people like us who are enjoying installing it all themselves. It's people just wanting a solution from that they pay a monthly fee from, like they would for ADT, and ADT could possibly be putting in, I guess it'd be Nest devices instead of.
Yeah, it makes perfect, from a Google point of view, it makes perfect sense because Amazon have been doing pretty well with Ring. I know in the States there's a lot of tie-ups with police departments and Ring, so it's I think it has been impacting ADT's business, but also potentially Google's Nest business as well. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
It's still an area that, unlike a lot of the home entertainment stuff, which when we started doing this was all very new and sort of settled down, I think this is still an area that's quite new, isn't it? And there's a lot of it's moved beyond hobbyists. The smart home stuff is. When we started this, it was all X11 and complicated, and now it's you can do it yourself, but with an off the shelf device like a Blink camera or something. But it's even going that step further where it's just it's not enthusiastic anymore. It's just what people have. But interesting. I thought that was interesting to see whether that how that would affect all these different markets, because you've got Amazon have got Blink, they've got Ring, they've got all the smart home devices, their little hubs and things. So it's interesting that the old school alarm companies are kind of getting into that as well. Or could potentially get into that and offering that as a service. I mean, some of these are so easy to set up. Like Blink one is so easy to set up. And then others that I've used, Arlo was easy to set up, but others that I've used, need cabling and all that kind of thing. And just, that's where you need a lot of people would need some professionals in. Whereas I'm quite happy to drill my house and run cables through, run mains cables. So back onto the inside of build, I think that was everything, wasn't it? So, the last couple of builds have not been quite as exciting as they were when we had all this new UI stuff. I don't know what we'll see next. We've still not heard anything on Windows 10X. I did talk about this last week when I was on my own last week. I don't know what your thoughts were on the fact that the rumours are that 10X will ship without any Win32 support through that emulation layer. Yeah,
that's. I get the impression they're struggling with that. I mean, it's Surface RT all over again if they do that, I think. You get the same problem that people want. There's still x86, x64 apps that people want to run still. You see, I mean, to be honest, the biggest one has always been iTunes, and I know that's potentially going away anyway. So maybe that's less of an issue going forward. But I mean, it'll have all the other apps that people want. The Office stuff will obviously be ported across to it. Well, one would think it would be. But yeah, I think it's a challenge putting it out without the emulation there.
And I know that for there's a lot of Azure stuff that they can do through streaming apps and things like that. But whether they can get that down to a consumer level to make it so that a single person buying a one-off PC World that could come home and wants to run a legacy app could be able to do it. I don't know how they can do that. Whether they offer those apps as part of a subscription service or OneDrive, somehow it's integrated in OneDrive, I'm not quite sure. I mean, it's kind of strange that they've got the technology, because look at this xCloud. I mean, that's way more complicated than streaming virtualized 32-bit application.
I mean, I can certainly see the whole 10x stuff working quite well in a business where you can have your local server for streaming your apps potentially, and depending how they give those services, certain services, or Azure for that matter, and also because you can actually look at it from the point of view of just if you're just on the Office apps plus Power Apps, of course, because you'll have all the Power App stuff will be available through Teams, which obviously will run on it. So, I mean, Teams as an OS is an interesting concept, I think, for businesses. It's with more and more stuff going into there. So, I could certainly see that being quite a big seller in that, and potentially educational. Same way that Chromebook's been a huge hit in the educational market because it's simple and easy to maintain and doesn't have a lot of stuff to do it. So, I can certainly see it being a good target for that. For consumers, I'm less certain it'll be a good thing.
Yeah, I'm interested because I remember when I had my Surface Go on Windows 10s, I thought, well, this will work fine for me. I've got Office on here. I'm never going to need to take it out of S mode. And I think I lasted about a week before I needed a command prompt to do something. So I was all right, I'm out of S mode. So
yeah.
But then a small cheap device. I don't know. It's a perception thing, isn't it? How often, if you're sat on the sofa, do you need to run a Win32 app if you were just a normal machine?
I think a lot from a consumer point of view, a lot will depend on price. I mean, if they're particularly cheap, then they may well get some traction. If they're normal Microsoft prices for Surface as a type of equipment, I don't see it.
Yeah, it I don't know. I mean, it does seem to be going. Windows 10 does seem to go around in circles. When it was originally, we heard rumours of it as being Windows 10 Lite or just Windows Lite, wasn't it? It didn't have Win32 support, and it was for Chromebook competitor. And then it became the dual screen device, not for anything else but dual screens. And then now it's not again. But of course, none of this is really official because Microsoft haven't talked about Windows 10X for some time. They've gone very quiet on it. Yeah,
I mean, this is all rumour and hearsay, and you never know quite how it's going to go.
Because the emulator that you can get now has got Win32 support in it.
Yes, it has. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I imagine when I tested it, some things worked okay, but some simple things, like the new version of Windows Terminal, doesn't work.
Yeah.
So there was obviously a lot of work to do, but I don't know. I'm interested to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think that's all the news I had for this week. But before we go, you have got a bonus feature for us this week.
Yes, I've got an interview lined up, which I think you'll find very interesting, Ian, because it's all about electric racing. So Beth Lily Georgiou from the ERA, which is the Electric Racing Academy, I think it stands for, is going to talk about the ERA Championship and the ERA Cup, and I think both of those are really interesting things. And hopefully, sometime next year, we'll actually get a chance to go and see one of these races and report from it.
Oh, that'd be brilliant! Yeah, so we're going to have that's going to come up at the end of the show. I'm looking for. I've not watched your interview yet. I'm going to go and add that onto here and edit it because I was looking forward to that one. So.
It's really interesting. It's a very, very good interview, and Beth's actually had some very interesting electric vehicle adventures of her own as well. She talks about in that interview as well. So that's really good.
And it certainly will be nice to get to a racetrack see it in person and not, actually get back. This will be. I mean, some circuits are opening up for spectator events in the next few months. But if I don't go to one this year, this will be the first time I've not been to an in-person race for about 20 something. So a while.
Well, have a watch of it, have a listen, and we'll chat about it next week because I think there's some interesting stuff on there we could actually discuss.
Yeah, excellent. So where can we find you and your EV news that you've been talking about?
Well, so you can find me on Twitter at Garry with 2 R's WMA, and also my YouTube channel, which is iPace Owner on YouTube, and I'm publishing full-length versions of a lot of these interviews, which are probably longer than anybody really wants to listen to, but then hopefully in a couple of weeks' time we'll actually amalgamate some of these other interviews together into one podcast for people to listen to in the car. But yeah, so some really good stuff gone up over the last few weeks, and I've got about 4 or 5 interviews coming up this next couple of weeks as well, which some very, if you're an EV driver, or even if you're not, there's some really interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, I need to get into it because my lease runs out next August next year, so I've got 12 months to decide what I want to do next. So it's probably a good time, really, because there's a lot.
Well, I mean, certainly depending how you do it. I mean, if you can do it through salary sacrifice, going EV at the moment is just a no-brainer because of the 0% tax rate, the benefit in kind rate at the moment for this year. It just makes it crazy. I mean, I'm talking every week almost to new fleet drivers of iPaces, and they're not paying. I mean, they're doing salary sacrifice, and they're paying less than £400 a month for an iPace, which is a crazy thing to do. Because that's an amazing car, as I say. I'm not biased at all.
Not at all. Well, excellent stuff. Right, well, we'll be back same place next week. It was good to have you back, Garry, and we'll go over to the interview. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Thanks to Garry. You can email me, ian@thislifestyle.com, @iStixon on Twitter. I'm going to hand over to Garry and enjoy the interview.
Welcome to the State of EVs in the UK Interviews 2020. This one with Beth Lily Georgiou of the ERA Championship and ERA Cup. And we have a great chat about all things electric racing. Hello, Beth.
Hi.
So it's a long time ago since we spoke. The last time we spoke was in a very noisy hall at Fully Charged Live.
Yeah, so it feels like a really long time ago now.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's obviously a shame we can't be talking there again. But things have obviously moved on. So let's talk about ERA. Do you want to explain what ERA is?
So ERA, well, actually, we're a few different things, but I think we're mainly talking about ERA Championship, and that's an entry-level all-electric Formula Racing series. But we also have a STEM education program as well called ERA Cup, and that's a much smaller car that kids are designed to build in school, or enthusiasts.
I really want to talk about the cup as well, because I think that's a fabulous idea. So let's start off with the championship, though. Obviously, this year has been somewhat challenging. Are you starting to get back out on doing things?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess this year's been challenging for most people, except for anybody that works in the digital industry, I suppose. That's probably been thriving for those people. But obviously, we were set to start racing this year, and because of the situation, we had to rethink our plans. So now we've pushed everything back until next year, because we just felt like that was the most sensible choice to make. And obviously, at a period of time in Belgium, we also were not allowed to go to work. So we also had a period of time where we were working from home. But obviously, when you work with race cars, that did mean that we weren't, our technical people were not able to be in the workshop actually working on the car. But the good news is, I think a month or so ago, we were finally allowed to go back to work with certain measures in place. So the technical team are back. We've sorted out things with the car. We've been out testing, I think, 3 times now on track in the last month and a half. We're out testing again this week. So things are moving. We're planning some activities with the car that we can do now while we can't actually go racing. And basically now it's all about signing on our first teams for next year and getting everything ready and putting together a brand new calendar.
So where will this racing be taking place? Is it throughout Europe or?
Yeah, so ERA is a regional series. The reason being is it's entry level. So the idea is that the teams don't need to pay lots and lots of money to be traveling all around the world to be competing. So our inaugural series is a European series. Race calendar isn't finalized yet, but the circuits that we were looking at already for this year that I'm sure we'll be looking at again are in Belgium, the Netherlands, and the UK. So hopefully we'll be sticking to that calendar. Nice kind of little Northern Europe tour, and then of course we are looking at other series in other locations around the world, but they'll be separate series.
Yeah. So is this a sort of a single vehicle championship? Do the entrants have to provide their own vehicles? How does it actually work?
So this is quite a fun part, because we're doing something a little bit different than you regularly see in motorsport. So we've got 2 classes of entry for the teams. The first class is called sports class, and those teams literally buy off-the-shelf spec race car from us. Everything's ready, it works, it drives. So they can just go racing with that, and the changes that they can make on the vehicle are, minor setup changes, things like that. So that's really ideal for teams that don't have knowledge of electric vehicles yet, want somewhere to start, young drivers that maybe see electric racing as their dream career path, that want to get behind the wheel. So that's the sports class. And the other class that we have is called innovation class, and this is more where things get technically interesting, because the team buy essentially a rolling chassis with some other parts from us, and then from there they can self-develop the elements of the vehicle, like the powertrain, the energy storage system, the battery, the human machine interface. So they get quite a lot of freedom, or they don't have to do all of that. They just specialize in something like motors, and they just want to modify the motor. That's fine. They're still innovation class, even if they're using our battery and other things like that. So that way those teams can really showcase their tech. Might be a whole business in the EV world that want to show that why they're competitive. They might be a university partnership that are doing something cool and new. So that's innovation class, and they are two separate championships. So there will be a winner from each class, but for year 1 they will race together.
Okay, so there must be standards they've got to follow even on the innovation class.
Yes, so there's a pretty airtight set of regulations. Obviously, in motorsport, finding loopholes in the regulations is part of the fun. so writing regulations for motorsport is entertaining, but yeah, they have to fit in with a set of criteria. And with the innovation class teams, they work with us very early on as an organization, so they don't just go off and build whatever they want and come back to us in 6 months' time and go, we're ready to go racing. And we go, no, this isn't allowed. So they have to submit documentation that explicitly say what they're intending to put in the car for us to approve. Otherwise it's just gonna be a nightmare when we get to scrutineering. And we obviously have a team of experts that look at things like the battery chemistry. If they're doing something interesting with the chemistry, we need to know what it is exactly and approve that, etc.
I guess there's a safety element of that with the batteries as well.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that we're looking at potentially encouraging, maybe for year 1 or maybe for future years, is like looking at extra prizes for sustainable innovation within that. So obviously there's things like the cobalt-free batteries has been suggested as a thing that we should maybe set as an extra challenge, not a mandatory challenge, but also that ends up with safer batteries as well. So we're looking at all sorts of fun things like that we can introduce into innovation class. And
hopefully, calling it innovation, that there will be innovation spinning off of that, which will move into the real world.
Yeah, that's absolutely our goal. There was a few different drivers that made us launch ERA, and one of them was the fact that we felt that there were a lot of small to medium-sized businesses and startups in the EV sphere, because obviously it's an emerging market, it's new and it's exciting, but they don't necessarily have the budgets or the knowledge to go and compete in big motorsport. And so they're not getting to showcase their products, their tech. And motorsport is one of the cool things where you can be like, look, our motor came first,
Yeah.
we won. It gives you really nice quantifiable results. It gives you a car that you can take to your expos. It gives you lots of cool marketing materials, recruitment angles, etc. So for these businesses, it's a great tool, and hopefully gives them exposure and shows that their tech is valuable.
and hopefully that then leads on to that tech becoming available to the public in
Exactly.
other cars.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we know from us iPace drivers that the iPace Trophy Series has actually had a significant and positive effect on the road iPace, and that we've all gained 20 to 30 miles of range through the research which went on that series. It's a shame to see that going, but it's the way it is. So hopefully that will be a driver, which is really good to hear. So how long are these races? What sort of distance are they about?
These are sprint races, so they're 23 minutes long, and we hold multiple races on a race weekend, which means there's a bit of fun because obviously we need to plan charging and strategy for the teams. So that means we're multiple qualification sessions, and we don't allow the teams to charge between 2 qualification sessions. So that means they have to have a little think about where they're strategically going to put their hot laps, and hopefully it means we mix up the grid a little bit, have a bit of mix up with who's at the front and who's at the back, and that also makes for interesting racing for the fans as well. That's important.
I like that. So it's the equivalent of tyre management. It becomes battery management.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they'll have to manage their tyres as well, so it gives them doubly as many things to work on, which is great. I mean, one of the complaints you see in some motorsport is that there's, that it's too predictable who's going to win, and the fans, they want less predictability. So that's something that we thought about incorporating with our races and how that could be possible.
Sounds really good. I'm looking forward to when you can actually get it off the ground.
I know, me too.
so let's talk about the other one, the ERI Cup. Am I right? I'm right?
Yes, yeah, the Cup.
So this is aimed at younger people?
Yeah. So we wanted to engage with younger people as part of our kind of responsibility of ERA, and it's something that a lot of us felt was important. A lot of our team have come through things like Formula Student, and that's been important to a lot of our team. So we wanted to also think about how we could make a program to encourage young engineers, because obviously ERA is a lot about young drivers, and they tend to come up through karting, etc. But there's not a lot of things we were doing that was for young engineers, and engineering is such a big part of our championship with innovation classes. It's a big driver for us. So we designed a kit car, a 100% electric kit car that you can build yourself. Kind of, I say it's like IKEA style, but then probably IKEA will sue me or something. But it's, you don't need any special equipment. You just need a toolkit and a bit of space in your garage or whatever to build it. So that's designed for school kids age 14 to 14 and up, basically, and big kids as well. So there's a few kits that I know have been sent out to very mature kids, big kids.
That does sound fun.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. We've all had a go in it as well, because we designed it to fit one of our other directors, who's like a large sized man, and that was important, because it's got to be something that you can send to the enthusiasts as well, and people kids can do with their parents. So it is adult sized, but I have to say it does go a lot slower with us.
So I assume there's a race series to go with this as well as just
so it's very regional based. At the moment, we've been running for a little while in Belgium and in the Netherlands. So we have some regions around there, and basically the school kids race at the end of the year in their local area, and it's all managed very locally, because obviously they don't travel far. Yeah. Etc. But now we've just starting to introduce a few other regions as well. So we're kind of growing globally. So we dream of it being a very global platform. And then obviously when we're racing with the championship in that region, we would like the Cup to join us and have a race, obviously not on the track, but in the paddock, etc. It would be perfect, and hopefully really, really inspiring for them to see the progress, that the steps that they can take.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I mean, 14-year-old me would have loved that.
Yeah, exactly. It's really good fun, and the cool thing I like about it is, and we even did this in house because we've got a demo cup car we built in house just before coronavirus that we built to kind of have a bit of fun with, really, is for the team and to take some Instagram photos of. But we encourage the teams to design and build their own bodywork. So that's the one thing that they do build themselves completely. So we obviously encourage them to be creative with the material that they build it out of, and it's a good opportunity to look at sustainable materials. So we built ours in-house out of pit wall signage from pit box from one of our other things, one of our other. It looks really cool. I mean, the paint job isn't great because it's painted over the top of pit wall signage rather than nice shiny bodywork, but we were really pleased that we kind of did it ourselves and used something and repurposed some scraps. So
it's brilliant. Yeah, I love that idea. That's really
we're really hoping we'll see some creativity. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter how ridiculous it is, as long as it's a functioning bodywork. There's some regulations regarding wheel covering, specifically with the bodywork and the kind of shape and dimensions it needs to be, but they can be pretty creative with what materials they're going to use there.
That sounds really exciting. Definitely going to attend one of those at some point.
Yeah,
especially once you spread them over to the UK as well. That would be really good.
I think the UK is very soon on the cards. I think Scotland is definitely an area that is coming soon. I mean, like I said, the whole purpose of ERA, the championship and the cup, is to have a global presence, but on a local basis. So hopefully it will be soon.
So just steering a little away from ERA for a second, you've had a lot of very interesting adventures lately.
Yeah. Oh no, not really. Not recently.
Well, not recently, but yeah, lately's probably putting it a bit over. Yeah. Since we last spoke, probably.
Yes, that's true. Although I can't remember what I've done since we last spoke.
But you've taken EVs on quite long journeys. Yeah,
well, when I'm not working on ERA, I do a fair amount of journalism, all surrounding obviously EV specific stuff. So I've done a few crazy road trips to test out cars. The last really big one I did was when we took 4 electric cars up to Nordcap from Bristol in the UK. So it was 10,000 kilometres in total. It took us a month. And
so for people who don't know where Nordcap is,
it's the most northern point of Europe. Yeah. It's not far from the North Pole. It's only another 2,000 kilometers from the North Pole, which it sounds like a lot, but actually, it's not a lot. And there's a sign in Nordcap saying 2,000 kilometers to the North Pole, and I've never had the desire to get on a boat and just finish the job so much, and I'm not good on boats, so that wouldn't have gone well. But it was just like, the North Pole, that's so cool. It was really exciting. Actually, it was a really eye-opening trip because we took a Tesla Roadster, a BMW i3, a 30 kilowatt old Nissan Leaf, and a Model S kind of as a sport car. The Model S has no trouble at all doing that journey. It's not an adventure in the Model S, but we needed it to carry food and tents and things. Because the entire journey was completely self-sufficient as well, because it needs to be eco-friendly. But in Nordcap it was 10 degrees above the expected temperature, so it was a bit scary actually up there.
That's worrying. You get that.
Yeah.
So the Leaf survived getting up. I mean, that was a challenge.
Yeah, the Leaf was probably not as much of a worry as the Roadster. The Roadster's got a much better mileage, but it's very difficult to charge the Roadster. So I was working with 6 different adapters. I plugged into some interesting places. I had one I never know the plug name, but I had the industrial caravan style adapter. The
commander adapters.
Yeah. Exactly. So I was plugging in with lorry drivers quite a lot of the time. The Leaf did pretty much okay, but I have to say by the end of the trip, the battery was just begging to stop being charged and charged and charged and charged. It was seriously heating up. But that was actually a Leaf from the EV Centre in Milton Keynes, and they got it back and it was still in one piece.
I'm very glad about.
Yeah.
But I love that idea. It's something I've toyed with, the idea going up to the top of Norway, which would be a lot easier in the iPace than it would have been.
Yeah, it's actually a breeze, and it's so beautiful. I'm actually desperate to go back because there's so many places I wish I could have stopped for a lot longer than I did. But obviously we're on a schedule, and it's difficult. The biggest challenge with 4 cars is not necessarily the individual needs of every car, but the fact that you're all running on the same charging line, let's say, charging network. It's not like up there you've got tons of choice, so we had to kind of work out how to get everybody to the top without everybody waiting around for the same charger. So it was a real logistical effort, which I don't think you would necessarily appreciate without kind of looking at the maths of it and going, oh, actually, this car has to set off at this time and arrive here, and then this one can tag in and plug in there. And it wasn't easy. It took more brain power than I think I had.
It's definitely those sort of journeys is a challenge. I remember very early on doing a trip to Berlin in a Model S, and even though that was a lot easier than it would have been with any other car, it was still a challenge working out where the superchargers were going to be and making sure.
Yeah, of course.
I can't imagine what that would be like with 4 cars and trying to get that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's good. It's good fun. I wouldn't be in a hurry to do multiple cars again.
Yeah, are those probably improving, I guess, because Norway's definitely.
Yeah. Norway was incredible. Don't get me wrong. Norway the charging situation, it blew me away. And bear in mind, this was a while ago now. It's got a lot better. It's just the fun part of the fun with the trip was. Most of the drivers, obviously I wasn't driving all 4 because I'm not that talented, but most of the other drivers were brand new to EVs as well. So it was kind of an education process for them, which was part of the fun, but also part of the stress, because you kind of forget when I've been driving an EV for so long, that you actually have a lot of knowledge that you don't necessarily think to impart upon others. Or you go, oh yeah, and one more thing, and you just keep columboing everyone, and it was really physically exhausting, I have to say. It was brilliant but knackering, and now I just want to go back to Norway and on a more relaxed term and enjoy the beautiful scenery. Really, probably in my Model S.
I haven't got as far as getting to Norway. I did Sweden for the Unity launch for the little Unity car.
Oh yeah,
I was over there for that, and that was just gorgeous around there. And I kept thinking I must go further north and get into the fjords and all that area.
I really recommend it. It's like magical. I'd been to Norway before, so I knew it was beautiful, but I'd never gone up that far, and really every corner you turn the view gets better and better and better. So especially I had the top down in the Roadster because as I said, it was really hot, so I was living the life. It was great.
That's fantastic.
And there's reindeer everywhere that just like live in the road, and they don't move out of your way. You just have to crawl behind them if they want to go the same way as you. So it was great. It's great to be in a silent car in nature. I'm really into nature. I really love animals and forests, and I always think that cars honestly ruin nature. So to be witnessing all the beautiful nature and be in that view with silence of the electric car, it felt right.
Yeah, that I can definitely get that. That's one of the really nice things. It's interesting actually. I was talking to someone the other day about China, because buses have gone, because all the buses have gone electric in Shenzhen, and it was suddenly quiet. The whole city was quiet, and you could hear the birds, which you couldn't do ever before.
That's so fascinating. It's actually interesting you say that, because the ERA chassis is Japanese, from Dome. So I've spent quite a bit recently of time in Japan and in Tokyo when I was there. Unfortunately, they're definitely not as EV as us in terms of BEVs. or they weren't then, but nearly every single car on the road is a hybrid, which means that when you're in the city, the traffic noise is basically zero because everybody's under 50 kilometers an hour. And it was for the first time, it was my first experience of a truly, obviously, crazy metropolitan city of Tokyo, but near zero traffic noise, which was incredible. So I really felt like it was a bit of a fully electric rather than just hybrid, but it gave us a taster.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, it's really interesting, and I think particularly with the public transport changing over to battery powered in a lot of cities, that's going to make a big difference. And it's really interesting how it's all going. And I can't wait to see it move on even further because, as you say, the sound of silence is beautiful.
No, I agree. And well, I'm in Berlin at the moment, and it's really, really noisy, and it's probably completely ruining this interview because all I can hear is the trams and the cars going past.
And probably a lot of electric scooters, if I remember last time in Berlin.
No, actually. Oh, you mean the Lime scooters?
Yeah.
I thought you meant like motorbike scooters.
Yeah.
There is a lot of electric scooters.
Yeah, you couldn't move for them last time I was over there. But
I think the novelty might have worn off a bit. I think probably too many people have fallen off.
Yeah. I know they put the regulations in not so long ago as well to try and make them a little bit safer because they were a little bit out there, but still very useful. And it was definitely I got around a lot on them when I was out there, so that was good to just see. So you're normally based in Belgium, aren't you?
Yes.
Is that right? So one thing I wanted to sort of touch on with you because when I've done my European trips, I've always felt there's a bit of a charger black hole in Belgium when I go through.
Yeah, there is.
Is there any sign of that improving?
Well, I'm actually probably not the best person to talk to anymore because obviously I used to have an i3. In fact, I had two i3s. Not at the same time because that would be greedy. And I had a massive pain because I commute, obviously not on a daily basis, but I commute quite regularly, or was commuting quite regularly between the UK and Belgium. And with the i3, it was terrible. You really had to hope that the charger was working and up and running because there are lots of chargers in Belgium, but half of them would be broken or be not you weren't allowed to use them unless you were registered to their system, and that system was really difficult to register to, and they wouldn't answer the phone, etc. And they had improved last time I checked, and I think they are starting to kind of at least do this with the systems a little bit and link them up and make them a little bit more pay-as-you-go friendly as well, which is really important. But of course, I now have a second-hand Tesla Model S, so I'm living the unlimited supercharging life.
And
I own the cheapest car I could possibly own, and everyone's like, oh, you've got a Model S, like it's so expensive. Yeah, I mean, they definitely, I'm not gonna lie, like if you look at the money, it looks expensive if you buy a new one, but if you do what I did and buy a second-hand one with unlimited supercharging still, then especially when you drive crazy high mileage like I do, then it's the cheapest car I could own.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant idea to do that. And I think that's something people forget, and we're going to see it over the next few years. That the second-hand market's already growing now, but the availability of longer range second-hand cars is just going to be out there, and there'll be a lot of Model S's out there.
And I really love it. I mean, I dreamed of having a Tesla when I first ever saw one. I never actually thought it would be a reality, that it would happen. So I am living the dream with my dream car. But a lot of people get a bit negative when you say you've got one. They assume that you've either like forked out loads of money just for a status symbol car, or there's people make assumptions. But when I actually say, look, essentially, if you look at it, I'm traveling this far on the equivalent of 11 litres of petrol in efficiency, and I never paid for fuel.
Yeah.
The price of my car will write itself off over a couple of years in fuel costs alone, because I drive. And that's a strange case for me. I wouldn't recommend a Tesla for most people, actually, that are just driving maybe 30 miles a week. Definitely not. But for me, driving thousands and thousands of kilometers, it's brilliant. It's taken me all over Europe. It's a little bit too big to take all over Europe, so that's the one negative. But I
always remember trying to take the Model S into a car park in Antwerp and thinking I'm not sure I'm actually going to get out of this car park.
Well, you know what, I find UK is the worst. Tesco cars are absolutely nightmare with the Tesla, and then people almost kind of watch you and they're like, "Oh, go on then, go and park that. We'll watch you try and park that." I'm like, "Oh no, there's pressure." Thank God it parks itself.
I mean, the I-Pace is a challenge enough in places, and obviously that's a bit shorter and narrow, which is good. I mean, the worst one was actually the Model X I borrowed and took to Antwerp, to Amsterdam, and that was a definite challenge getting into some supercharging places. I remember trying to get into Blue Water, and that I couldn't work out how I was supposed to get into that space.
The X is. I'm actually not a fan of huge cars, especially not for me, because I don't really need it. With the S, it's great because actually we use it a lot at work. It's my work car as well, so we use it to lug stuff around the racetrack and things like that. So it's ideal. But in the past, I've always favored the smaller car, and whenever new EVs come out, I'm always eyeing up the cute small ones rather than the SUVs, and that's more environmentally friendly anyway. And I don't have any reason to have a massive car, but I have to say it is handy, especially traveling between the UK and Belgium, to have the size. But I do catch myself eyeing a Model 3 in the future, but it just wouldn't be financially interesting for me right now with my unlimited supercharging on mine, and I don't want to just trade in my car because I love it.
The free supercharging is just definitely
obviously that's gonna end at some point, but for now I take advantage of that because it's brilliant.
Well, Beth, it's been a delight talking to you again. Hopefully we can do this next year actually in person at Fully Charged Live again.
That would be nice.
or at an ERA event, which would be even better.
That would be better.
Well, you take care, and thanks again for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yes, again, many thanks to Beth for that. That was brilliant. We thoroughly enjoyed doing that interview, and hopefully we can catch up with Beth next year, and maybe even sooner than that, and see what the ERA are doing. Sounds really interesting stuff.